All right. Welcome, everybody, to the show. We'll get everything started here.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
All right. Well, nobody's out here tonight. We're going live pretty late. We started about a half an hour late tonight. And it's going to be a short show. So I'm going to have to check my own audio to make sure it's working. And I only got about half of the show produced before the show. Okay, it looks like we're getting it working. Yeah. I almost canceled it, but I figured instead of canceling it, I'd at least salvage what we got started here and kind of go through sort of the first half of the week. Had a couple of things happen this week that screwed with my schedule, so I was not watching anything 2A this week, and pretty much what I report on is the stuff I've seen. So obviously a lot of stuff happened this week, and I will not be offering much insight onto that because I'm barely aware of it, not even, let alone learning about it, or at least what they've changed, right? The definition of a seller was one of the things that they had talked about before, but sounds like they've recently changed some pieces of it, so it's going to need a new complete looking at. So I'll let other people do that, or I'll do that when I can in the future. This week we'll take a look at what happened. We do this as an effort to consistently create content, right? So that we're not trying to do something once a month, which would be overwhelming. Once a year would be useless, right? So every couple of weeks, that might be a way to do it, but I figure every week we're taking a consistent bite. We're not letting it go too long, and every once in a while we'll have a show like this one where it's going to fail and not meet the mark, and every once in a while we have a show that goes a little bit above, so hopefully it evens out, and it's an effort worth doing. That being said, we do this for a couple of reasons. One, so that we can, like I just said, get it done. But the other part of it is to promote the people and the projects we're going to be talking about tonight, and we do each week. We want to spread the word on them, not just here in this video or the podcast that'll result from it, but also on other places online. So our Patreon, you know what? I thought I was sitting here screen sharing. I'm not even screen sharing. We'll get the little puppy off the screen. Sorry about that. Nobody wants to look at our sleeping puppy. And we'll follow along with the comments the description of this video. I'm getting tired. I lost my I haven't had coffee all week, let's just put it that way, without getting into all the details on it. And it's not late at night, but it's late for me this week. So I'm fighting sleep right now, and I apologize for the lack of consistency on this one. So we try to post this stuff on different places online. So the Patreon blog, the newsletter occasionally, but over on Substack, which is gaining popularity. We've actually got paid subscribers on Substack. So thank you very much to the people that are supporting the efforts over there. Instagram from back in the day. And then, of course, it's a podcast. And we started putting everything for the podcast on one place instead of having them just everywhere. And that is called Podbean. We'd appreciate anybody who's interested jumping over and giving us a thumb over there, a like or a follow, whatever it's called. We are still on iTunes and on iHeartRadio and Amazon and Google and all the rest, and Spotify, but we push them to all those places from this one place. Before I used to do each of them separately, and it was more work. It was cheaper for sure, but it was more work and it was less effective because none of these places give you analytics. But when you push it through one place, the place that pushes them can give you data. So now we have analytics, and we can start to see how many people are listening to the podcast. And we do appreciate the people that are listening over there. But we also post it there because all those different platforms are very popular, and we're putting all these people and these projects out there each week whenever possible. And that's our real goal, is to help spread them across the internet. We have fairly large presence on our podcast and our social pages. We've been around for a long time, and we're large. So we're trying to make the best use of that as we can by having content-rich descriptions, and then put that content on as many places as possible, which is technically how the internet works. So what we're trying to do here is accomplish some things. All right, that being said, we want to thank our Patreons. If you're looking at the screen, we have a scroll at the bottom, and that's saying thank you. Each week, every live show we do, in fact, we're saying thank you to those people that are capitalists, and they use their money. They subscribe to our projects. We have a lot of websites. We have 3 servers. Just spent well over $1,000 on domain names. We'll do that 3 or 4 times each year. And the Patreons help with that a lot and make it possible for us to keep these websites that they're not the most popular websites out there. You know, some of them are just playing around. Some of them are offering data, good info. It's the consistency that we strive for, so that we're constantly growing. We're constantly spreading into directions. We're helping to normalize guns on the internet. And we really appreciate the Patreons for understanding that and supporting that financially, as well as all the other ways that they've supported us over the years. But it's also a useful platform for getting information out. So anyway, that's the goal here of this show, is to wrap up the week, but not just to hear ourselves talk. We wrap up the week with this purpose. And we've been doing that for something like 1,735 episodes. I don't do anything just for the hell of it. I got other things I could be doing. I've always had it that way. So the effort that we put into gun chat, Second Amendment type talk, is to encourage other people to be part of this. It's to share what our experience is out there, and it's to document so that the future, you know, we look at black and white pictures and go, ooh, look what it was like back in the day. We look at cave paintings and go, ooh, what it was like back in the day. In the future, they're going to be looking at what we're doing right now and think, ooh, look what it was like back in the day. Let's give the future something to remember that's accurate and not just hype and not just trying to sell them something, right? So I really appreciate the people that do that, and I try to amplify those folks, as well as the good projects that are being done to change and normalize guns out there. All right, let's dig into it. We're going to be looking at the 2A news of the week, kind of, in an abbreviated way, because I'm dying of sleep over here. Then we've got the 2A talk. Look how tiny that is this week. Gun talk, quite a bit of stuff in there, but not maybe a third of what we would normally have in there. Then the radio shows, which I only listened to none of them this week. And we'll take a look at the calendar. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. And the military interview shows we'll talk about. And then the stuff that we did this week. However, we didn't do anything this week, so that'll be easy and short. I really am not giving enough credit to the stuff that happened this week. Some really interesting stuff happened, besides the sky is falling bullshit distraction news that's being shoved down everyone's throat. Real stuff happened this week, and I'm just not in the shape right now. And I thought about putting the show off till tomorrow when I'll be awake, but I have stuff to do in the morning, so I just can't do it. So sorry that we have to just kind of make do this week, but I am sorry to the people that are doing good stuff out there, because there has been some really good stuff. We'll talk about a little bit of it here, but I don't even know what I missed. I think I'll take a second here since we're 10 minutes into the show, and I am going to have to grab some of this water. I'm dying. So we'll throw a quick commercial up here for our store. We thank the people that might not subscribe to what we're doing, or maybe they do. But either way, we're capitalists, so we thank the people that buy stuff from our store. You know, our store costs like $40 a month just to exist. So if we don't make enough sales, then that's just a loss. So we appreciate the people that help us make projects happen and get the word out on things through sales over the store. And I'll thank Foss for giving me a 40-second long commercial, in which time I'll be able to drink a whole bunch of this ice water.
Sir, why are you in Barry's fishing net? He ran right into it. Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty apes. First off, that is incredibly rude. You ran straight into Barry's fishing net. It's ruined. How is Barry gonna fish now? I'm just trying to find some patches and some stickers. Well, all you have to do is go to gearwebsites.com and you can find 2A related stickers and patches. And even if you need web consulting, technology consulting, 3D printing, anything like that, gearwebsites.com. Now please get out of the net. I'm sorry. Jerk.
So long story short, I lost my refrigerator. So went out and got some ice right before Gizzards' show. It's the first ice I've had all day. It's getting hot here, so it's been refreshing gulping down that ice water. All right, so I want to say hey to everybody. G23 was here earlier. He's probably asleep by now, but thanks for joining in. Thanks for being part of everything. Mini Wayne is out there. Welcome. Black Rifle Medic following over from Gizzards' show, so I'm assuming first time over here as well. Welcome. Normally I'm awake. I'm actually a night person, but this week I've been doing stuff in the morning, well, all day, and it's just been wearing me out, so I'm not on my game tonight. But welcome. Miss Wayne, welcome. Gunpowder Beauty. Do we have 50-50 ratio of guys to girls tonight? That'd be kind of cool. And then Ron Wayne, welcome. And then Woods is out there as well. Welcome as well. And there's, again, way more people out there. I don't know why people have been watching this show so much and not saying anything, but this is a participatory show. I don't do stuff to hear myself talk. I'm not interested in fame. I'll take the fortune, but fame, I'll leave that to somebody else who's seeking that. This is because the internet is interactive. Otherwise, I'd be recording this, you know, when everything is great and everything's perfect, and you'd only hear the best thing ever. You'd only hear the, you know, the A game. I don't play like that. So this is live. Be part of the show. Be part of the community. Be part of whatever. Or don't, you know. You don't have to, for damn sure. It's a free country, so you can sit there and not. And guess what? We all lose because we will fall when we're all standing alone. All right, well, that being said, let's dig into the 2A talk. Hold on, I got to cough a bunch of times. All right, hopefully that's over. I'm going to get into 2A talk, and then I'm going to get into gun talk, right? Then we're going to get into the rest of the show. I'm going to come back to 2A news of the week because I didn't follow it, and I'm going to have to read the email that I normally use as my notes. But it's super worthless because it's very long and it takes forever, and I don't want to ruin the whole show. And I'm watching everybody over my shoulder barely read through that thing. So we'll try to give it some justice at the end of the show, which I'll probably be failing by then. So it'll be worth it because it's a bunch of the sky is falling as far as I can tell. Tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like it's a bunch of sky is falling BS. So let's get into the 2A talk. Suicide prevention Saturday last week. Brooke kind of came back from an issue she had the week before, but I guess let me first introduce the show. When we talk about the Second Amendment, when I talk about the Second Amendment, the reason I use those words instead of the word guns is because those are two separate things. Guns are neat toys and tools that we have. There's some history and there's a lot of collectability there. There's definitely a lot of, you know, options and machines and whatnot. Those are the tech, right? But the software, the 2A is different. 2A is what the Second Amendment protects, and it isn't guns. Guns is the consequence of it. But the Second Amendment is our individual freedom, right? And it's that concept of civic, both not just responsibility and opportunity, but that we all have a massive opportunity now to change the way that things are being done. People are being used and abused based on their unawareness of the way our system of government works. A lot of us had to sit through school and we all hated the classes because we thought it was boring, but I think we all value it now, having that base understanding of how the government was set up and works so that the individual is actually the one in power and the government is kept in check by other pieces of government keeping it in check. So anyway, that all of that stuff is sort of the level we're talking about when we talk about 2A and Second Amendment. So I put that stuff in its own section of the show because it's necessary. And it's not just the political section. Unfortunately, it gets wrapped up in politics sometimes, often. But it's really not a political thing as much as an awareness and an education thing for people that are listening to the podcast for the first time, I don't have a leaky gut or some sort of a hole in my abdomen. I have my co-host, who's a very sleepy little puppy who is, I don't even know why he's all upset today. I think it's because I went out and got ice earlier, and he was not able to go into the place and get ice with me. He's upset about that. So he's just over here snoring the whole time. I try to poke him in his ribs every time he makes too much noise, but I also don't really hear him because he's doing this to me all the time. So a lot of times you're going to hear him making his noises back there, and I don't realize it until he bothers me, and then I spank him a bunch of times, and he quits it. A lot of people say you shouldn't even have a dog on the video. Why would you have a dog as your co-host? He doesn't pay attention to the audio quality. He rarely keeps the internet running, and often he's making these noises. It sounds like you got a butt problem. I don't care. He's worth it. He's pretty good. Let's see. So we're going to get into that 2A section of the show, and I kind of put these things in order usually. And one of the things I think is one of the most effective, well, I'm not going to say it's the most effective because I'm sure she would like to see it be more effective, but it's tough to measure the success of an input. A grain of sand in the right place in someone's shoe is going to cause them to be anxious and try to just stop walking, right? And that might end a march, that might end a war. So that little grain of sand can be quite consequential, even though there's no way for that to get credit, right? Now, I'm not suggesting that in any way is Brooke's project like that in that respect, as far as being a nuisance or just a noise, but it's those small messages, those small things that, not small necessarily, but those initial things that get said that snowball, right? It's that particle that gains, attention and then momentum, and eventually finds others that agree with it, and then it gets momentum and it becomes a message. So there's been some talk and there's been some awareness. There's definitely been some books, but there's very little effort being done for the awareness of mental health and suicide prevention, except for every Saturday afternoon for years now. Brooke Cheney from A Great Start Shooting School has been doing a brief but consistent effort every Saturday evening to normalize that discussion, to have a conversation about mental health awareness and suicide prevention. When I first started doing this in 2015, it was difficult for me to even start approaching suicide because I didn't talk about it very often. I didn't know much about it, and I knew it was an issue, but I didn't know much to say about it. Thanks to Brooke's consistent effort to just create understanding of the concepts and the vernacular, is that the right thing? The terminology and the, getting comfortable with it, that's changed, and I'm able to now, get my point across, or get the point across about the importance of her effort. That's happening with others as well, besides me, over the years. So Brooke's effort is actually making a change. It's actually creating something that's positive towards ending the suicides, which is the number one thing we all care about. But the consequence of ending the suicides, of course, is the antis can't use those fucking numbers against us as much. So Brooke's project is one of the only consistent project, literally, and it's real, grassroots. She's not in it for nothing except to do it, and she's passionate about it, and she has a group of people that's growing that accompany her on that mission, but she's not trying to be an organization or some sort of entity that takes care of it or grabs all the money so that it can pay for it or something. She's simply trying to change things, and it's an excellent project. Now, if you don't feel that you need to worry about suicide, but you think maybe the elderly are overlooked and they're a massive portion of our population that shouldn't be restricted by NFA regulations. They're a large portion of the population that probably should have something like a suppressor on anything they have so that they don't have to deal with the noise. They should probably have something that's more ergonomic. They should probably have something that may or may not need, the same kind of technology that we have today. So there's certainly some potential there. I could go on and on without getting into it when I'm tired like this. I think Brooks' project is not just effective in its own right, but it'll also inspire and motivate others to join that path or that method of creating awareness out there. All right, moving on to the other thing I have under 2A talk this week, which is Sisters in Arms. They had a conversation with a state representative from Massachusetts who has an interesting story. It's sad, but it's an interesting story on his kind of origin story and then why he's now in running or is in office in Massachusetts. And they don't have a lot of pro freedom, pro individual, pro not big state, kind of pro individual over state representatives in Massachusetts. So it was a great opportunity to hear from one. And the Sisters in Arms is two ladies from Massachusetts and Rhode Island, Marianne and Renee. And they do their TV show at I'm going to say not quite weekly, but almost weekly basis. So this is episode 33 and definitely worth checking out. Two ladies that are activists in their own right, but coming together to create this content to kind of change the narrative, especially in the East, where often guns are kind of separated. So it's easy for people who aren't familiar with guns to just assume gun owners are, fill in the blank, whatever they think. The ladies from Sisters in Arms, a firearm story, are helping to change that narrative for those folks. Belly rubs for Bacon Bit. He's sleeping, so I'm going to give him rib rubs, which are pretty much the same. He pooped all over the other day, so he's clean. He doesn't get clean all that often because I'm lazy. So he's 100% clean, and that way this is a very fluffy dog to be doing these rib rubs on him right now. Wood saying hashtag Bacon Bit. That's the co-host over here. I'm bugging him now. Pretty soon he'll roll over. I give him some belly rubs maybe. He's a boy, so he gets this kind of belly rub instead of a girl belly rub. But it applies. It still counts. He didn't wake up for it. He complied, and he got himself ready for a belly rub, but he didn't bother to wake up, as you see. He's pretty lazy like that. He's all right, though. All right, so let's get into the gun talk. There's so much more 2A stuff, I'm sure. There's probably a couple of things that I would normally look at, and then stuff that comes along and surprises me. I think Walk Talk America had a chat. I just hadn't been able to watch stuff this week. It's been one of those weeks. Taxes, other stuff at the house, and then good stuff. Not all bad stuff, but good stuff and bad stuff happen at the same time, so it's super frustrating. It's canceling it out and annoying, but still good stuff happening too, so I don't want to complain or nothing. All right, so let's see. Now we're going to be talking about gun talk. Here's the problem. Normally, I would do this over on a different platform that's way better, Substack, and all this would be the previews of the videos, and I would know what I'm looking at. I don't know what this first one is, so we're going to have to just open it, I guess. Oh, that's She Fires. Okay. So, I guess I'm already up to gun talk. Holy moly. So, She Fires usually leads the way for the gun talk segment. She Fires from Florida doing a Sunday live chat, keeping the community together on Sundays. Right now, she's the only community chat on Sundays. You know what I'm saying? There are Rich White, I think, does one. And somebody else does one. Those are more like groups. Nothing that's kind of open. Well, I shouldn't say Rich White isn't open. I haven't watched his stuff in a long time. But I thought he was wrestling for a long time. Anyhow, She Fires, awesome show. I didn't watch it this week. Let's see. Then we have. There was an overnight on Saturday. So every other week, Foss, the dude who did the Gear Websites commercial a little earlier with Planet of the Apes theme, he does a Saturday show every other week, and he does a Wednesday show every week. So I think I forgot to put the mouse party in here because I put this stuff together before the mouse party happened. But last week was a overnight, so that means this week will not be an overnight. So there's nothing to listen to on Saturday night now. Let's see, but he had a knife bracket on the overnight chat last week, so that's always a fun time. And talked about different types of knives, and a bunch of people showed up, and we had conversations about why we like some over the other. Kind of came down to, I can't remember now. Did K-Bar win? K-Bar might have won, but I don't remember. Gizzard, a bunch of people came over from Gizzard's show. His show starts, I don't know when it starts, before my show though, 2 hours before my show. And I usually listen to his show while I'm tidying up the last bits of this show. However, today I jumped into his show because I've been doing other stuff all day, and I kind of forgot that I didn't finish this show. So it's not Gizzard's fault that I didn't finish this show. I'm just saying he invited me to his show like he does every week, and because I took him up on the invite this week, I didn't finish this show. So you can decide who's to blame there. And the whole while, the puppy was just sleeping. So, but anyway, Gizzard had a show, and again, keeping the community together, creating a place where people can get together once in a while, consistently, right, once a week or whatever. Because when we need to get together, we're not flopping around like a bunch of dipshits who's never met each other before, trying to wonder who the hell we can trust. So people that keep our communities together are the most valuable people we've got, and we're not owed them. They don't owe us, and they don't have to do this. Most of them are doing it, at least the people I'm familiar with, are doing it because they give a shit. None of them are rich and doing it because they got nothing else to do. None of them are trying to get rich doing it. There are people who are trying to get rich doing this kind of stuff. None of the people I know are, or at least I don't hang around with the people that are trying to do that. And they're not trying to lead a conversation. There's certainly people out there that aren't trying to get rich, and they're not necessarily trying to get famous, or at least they're not eager to get famous. But they're just wasting everybody's time, not preaching to the choir so much as complaining to the complainers, like just miserable all the time and wasting everybody's time. And then there's the folks that just don't do shit, that just talk about grip angles and where they're going to hunt next week, and what kind of competition's coming up. We got a lot of people, and they're allowed to be disinterested. Free country, you go do whatever you want. But while everything's burning, I'd rather hang out with the people who are worrying about buckets of water. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather worry about people who, even if they aren't able to run fire trucks to the flames, are thinking about how to support the people with fire trucks, or how to get to the, like I say, the bucket brigades. And even if it's just talk, these are incubators for discussions that I'd rather be part of. So Gizzard is in that group. G23 is in that group. Woods and Gunpowder are part of that group. One way, I know everybody listening tonight is part of that group, you know what I'm saying? But we know the people that ran shows, that kept us together. And, She Fires is part of that, and Foss is part of that now. And, again, they don't have obligations to do this. They're not going to be doing it forever, but appreciate them while they're here. Like this is something that is a gift. We would be fumbling around like a bunch of dipshits every time they threw something at us if we didn't have these people that keep us together, that to give us an opportunity to know each other just whenever, so that when we need to know each other, we're not just having to meet or introduce each other for the first times. I feel like I'm saying the same stuff over and over again. So I'll keep going. Gunpowder Beauty is asking, what is your experience? What is the typical response time when reaching out to state representatives? I mean, I'm too tired to be able to turn my brain into thinking about all of that, because it doesn't happen enough. Every once in a while, somebody will do something. I'm not saying it doesn't happen enough. It's just we don't talk about that stuff enough. So every once in a while, somebody will talk about a letter they sent, and it'll either be positive or negative. I guess the most recent thing I have is a representative in Massachusetts, who was on Cape Gunworks radio show one day. And I said something about something. And he said, well, yeah, one way you can help is throw me $20 or something like that. And I was like, you know what? I'll do that. And I sent him $20 with PayPal or whatever. And so I've kind of kept up on his thing because I'm on his email list now, and he gives me updates when he does stuff in Massachusetts. So it's not like I know anything about it. But did I freeze up? What's going on? Huh, I must have froze up. That's super weird. Huh. Well, that's cool. Let me go see what's happening on my video. Or am I disconnected? Well, how come? It's cool. Let me go see what's happening on my video. That's weird. It's just my camera froze, I guess. Well, how come? Looks like I'm just holding my dog, but I'm over here slapping him in the face and wiggling his ear. So, what do I do? Stop. No, that has nothing to do with it. Huh. Looks like he's dying or something in that picture. Stop camera? Start camera? No. Maybe flip the camera to a different camera? And then back? Oop. And then back? Uh-oh. And then back? Yeah, I'm still broadcasting. It's a super weird one. Garage guys out there, welcome. We almost sold the garage earlier. I think my camera just died. So, push this button. Oh, and then I have to push the start camera button again. Look, now I'm wiggling his eyeballs. Now I'm poking him in the eyes. Okay, it's working again. I'll stop poking him in the eyes here soon. Okay, it's stopping. It's starting. It's working. It's working. I can stop poking him in the eyes, I guess. All right. This is good for something. I didn't even wake him up. I poked him in the eyes like 30 times and he didn't wake up. That's how dedicated he is to sleeping. All right, well, so imagine if we had an army of people as dedicated to 2A as this dog is dedicated to sleeping. And then the other day I winged some refried beans in the backyard thinking that a cat or bird or something would eat them. Well, a little dude found them, and now his whole goal in life is going in the backyard and finding more of those refried beans out there. I'm pretty sure he thinks there's like a refried bean fairy out there just depositing refried beans around. So anyway, if we had people as dedicated as this dog is to napping and refried beans, we'd be better off. All right, well, so we can get rid of this. Hopefully it's broadcasting now. It's got to be the worst podcast. All your other podcasts you listen to are all fancy. They put their stuff through editors. Yeah, I don't, if you can tell. I'm just normal here. We're just regular. All right, so we'll go down here and get back to it. I think we were talking about FOSS with the overnight, then Fowl Territory, so that can get us past the live shows and the people that keep our community together. And we can start talking about night vision. So there's this channel out of New Jersey that's the only thing I found that's decent.
Can't go do this.
What the hell?
Clear out stuck poop.
Are you kidding me?
On June 17th.
How embarrassing.
2019.
No, we have to talk about poop on a live show. So there was some commercial for poop, I guess. This is a organization out of New Jersey, and instead of being some millionaire who's trying to blah, 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 and not give a shit about Second Amendment at all and make a bunch of money talking about Europeans bullshit, this is regular people who've been collecting stuff for a long time, and they share their knowledge at this club. So they get together every once in a while, and from what I can tell, a bunch of people will bring their collections in or bring their collections together, which is even better, because then you get a kind of a complete sample set or a complete sample set plus, you know, some of the variations and modifications and cool shit. So I've mentioned these things in past shows whenever I see them usually. Every once in a while it'll be something boring and I'll talk about it, but almost always it's something interesting, from marine knives to camouflage to, you know, firearms, of course. But in this case, it's night vision. So this guy who's talking is usually their like Vietnam era guy. And he's done some stuff on SKSs and Mosins and stuff. In this case, he's got the old M1 carbine. one he's about to pick up here, and super neat. So he kind of talks about that for a little while. Then this other guy picks up and talks about pretty much everything from then to today. And, it's not all polished, and, it's not millionaires have script writers, presenting shit with a bunch of animation and a bunch of shit. It's just regular people talking about their actual collections through their actual knowledge, legitimate, actual gun stuff. So it's highly worth checking out. I'm sure me and Tony will talk about it if we have a show tomorrow, because he's in New Jersey, and if he doesn't go to those events, he's been to some of them events before. Thanks for the feedback, by the way. All right, so Black Rifle Medic is saying we had a hard fight in Virginia recently, barely hung on. Was it your governor was cool, or was your governor the adversary? I thought it was your governor was cool this time, but they just threw a lot of stuff at them. But well, I don't want to say unfortunately, but Virginia doesn't get anywhere near the attention as other states, because the other states are just getting kicked in the nuts constantly. Virginia's getting like jabbed in the throat, but they're doing a pretty good job of knocking those jabs away. Every once in a while you get kind of rassled around, but you're not getting the shit kicked out of you like some of the other states for sure. And that's what happens, is the states that are getting the most shit kicked out of them are getting the most attention. And I don't know if it needs to be that way. I don't think it should be that way. We have more than enough people. If we had actual national level organizations that provided leadership instead of just exploitation, what we'd have is organization, right? We'd have actual leadership, or at least the structures in place so that we could decide if we wanted to participate or not. So again, we have enough gun owners out there, people that are interested in actual Second Amendment, to have influence in these states that are thinking that they're invulnerable because they have fractured gun owners enough to keep us, unable to fight in specific states. We don't need to do that. Border states, just states that have relationships with each other, we could create some really interesting dynamics there where it would bulletproof us, literally. But anyway, I'll keep going. Right now, what happens is the states that get in the most fights are the ones getting the most of our attention. 39 anti-gun bills, most vetoed. Good. 50,000 people armed at the Capitol a few years ago. Yeah, I remember that one. Haven't heard of that. You guys actually have the best. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say the best. Well, no, it's hard to say. In the top 3 for sure of the state level organizations. Arizona Citizens Defense League used to be one of the best ones. They certainly did some amazing shit at the right time. And that happened because of Virginia Citizens Defense League. The guys that created it, the 4 or 5 guys that created Arizona Citizens Defense League in 2001, came from Virginia. Like, they lived in Virginia and moved to Arizona and said, wait, we thought Arizona was going to be better. Like, let's make it better. And they did. There's other Citizens Defense Leagues that have come from it. Connecticut Citizens Defense League, for example, and then other organizations inspired by the work of the Virginia Citizens Defense League. So you guys have an amazing group there. They do their meetings online instead of doing them like, oh, we're so desperate for members, let's do everything in person in fucking Phoenix. It's 2 hours away from everybody, and then bitch because nobody can be part of the group, or do it online. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell? It's a giant state. Let's do it online. This isn't the olden days. So Virginia, doing it online. It's ridiculous that every state isn't doing it that way. Well, most of the states are, well, I'll get into a whole other thing. Not all states are being run by people who give a shit about the Second Amendment or ending the war, right? They want to just perpetuate the war. Philip is a good guy at BCDL. Yep, for sure. Thanks, by the way, for participating in the chat. It's always funner to have people chatting here, especially when I don't have anything prepared. So watching the, oh man, why can't I think of them? History Collectors Forum, I think. That group talk about night vision. Definitely a pleasant surprise for, like, say, I had good and bad stuff happening this week. So seeing that video come up was definitely a nice ray of sunshine. the good kind of sunshine too, like the 70-degree sunshine that's pleasant and not the 107-degree sunshine that burns, right? All right, now we get to, oh, here, this is worth watching. I'm just going to go ahead and copyright us because I need to drink some water anyway. This is pretty awesome, though, isn't this? I don't know who they had do this, but they know what they were doing. They flew a tiny airplane in through the front door, came into Scottsdale Gun Club. When you first come in, you take a right. You're in the tactical, and like they used to have medical over there. It's where their ARs and stuff are. Then as you come around the perimeter of the store, you reach their shotguns and stuff, and then kind of opposite the door, when they get to that part of the walls, the perimeter of the store, that's the rental area for their guns and machine guns and stuff. And then, of course, the pistol case that has a bunch of pistols for rent in it. And then they kind of zoomed off towards the classrooms and the ranges. And then they kind of, faded into some pictures of the construction of the Scottsdale Gun Club back in 2003, kind of into 2000 in the beginning, or 2004. So that's interesting too, because I started putting everything together in about 2005 or 6. And I was not new to Arizona, but I was, overwhelmed trying to put all the different Phoenix gun stores in there, and the Flagstaff gun stores and the Tucson gun stores. At the time, we had 16 gun stores in Tucson, and we had something like 30 in Phoenix, and maybe just a trickle in the rest of the state. And I was putting them all into this database. And that's when I first came across Scottsdale Gun Club, and then just the way that it was referred to and the way people talked about it, I kind of assumed Scottsdale Gun Club had been around like since the 60s or something. Like I thought it was one of those gun clubs that came from an old range and then went to an indoor place once the range got bought up or something, or like once people started complaining about the noise. But no, it just started about 2 years before I was started, or at least started the gun stuff, and or not even like a year before I started the gun stuff, about 2 years before I became aware of them. So again, I just always thought it was kind of a long-term, had been there forever. And I just learned by watching this video that that's not the case. They're only they're actually younger than gun websites. So anyway, it's super cool. And then by the time I went up there, it had been there years. So I couldn't tell that it was kind of new. Anyway, I thought that was neat. And hearing the origin story of something like a gun shop helps normalize guns. I don't know what the hell antis think, and who knows what gun people think. Think of how many, I don't know who's listening to this. You don't have to say nothing. But think about, and look, that flag was correctly hung. That's awesome. So think about how many people who are into guns, how many of them grew up with guns, like since they were babies, there was guns around. And how many of them, when they were in their 30s or 40s or whatever, decided to buy a gun, right? So, who knows what people got going through their head if they're new to guns or whatever. So seeing an origin story, seeing a pan or a fly through like that, or whatever that's called, to kind of tour the store, the shop, or the facilities, super cool. I wish every gun shop would do this. I mean, every store could do it, I guess that'd be cool, but I'd like to see every gun shop do it for sure. Anyway, so I thought that was cool. Hopefully we don't get copyrighted too bad, because I was chatting them up the whole time. All right, so one of my friends from the olden days of the AKs is Rob, and he's been writing books forever, but well, I shouldn't say that. He finally started writing books, and now he's been doing them for a few years, because his picture catalog, back in the olden days, speaking of the olden days, we put all these pictures on the internet, and they were all hidden. We had these offsite, so we didn't want people harking them. They weren't people's, right? They were Rob's. So we built this massive infrastructure that was all offline, and it was just for us to have pictures so we could build and we could see what was going on and stuff. So I knew Rob had all these like massively awesome pictures, and it was just so difficult back in the old days to put this stuff on the internet. You can only put small pictures up there. If it was a big picture, it would just take forever for people to see. And we all wanted big pictures, but we wanted different big pictures. So it was just very frustrating for a long time. And then publishing was more expensive back in the day and everything. So as you're able to self-publish and as you're able to print on demand, and now Rob's on YouTube with this stuff, it's amazing. I mean, I don't know if people understand what they're seeing here. Like Oh yeah, let's just take it for granted. Here's a picture of a freaking African Vektor R4. This is vaporware ghostware. Unless you went to Africa, you're not seeing one of these. Like, where are you gonna get an imported African Vektor R4? It ain't happening. So this is awesome shit. This is essentially the African AK, which is a Valmet turned into a Galil, turned into a Vektor. And again, some of us knew they existed through books written by people in South America, or I mean South Africa. But Rob went there, I imagine, and got all this stuff. I can't even imagine who would make a cutaway of one of these things, how much these things would be worth right now. I liked them because their bayonet is a Fowl bayonet, but anyway, it's a whole nother thing. Anyway, this is super interesting stuff, and I mean, I don't know, I haven't talked to Rob in forever, but he must be enjoying putting all this stuff out there. Hopefully people are appreciating it. Like, let's take a look at how many views it's getting. It's relatively low number of views because it's pretty nerdy, but it's just really, really, I don't want to say behind the curtain, because people didn't even know it was there. When you say behind the curtain, it implies people know there's a curtain and there's something behind it. People didn't even know there's a curtain. People didn't even know that there was somebody out there taking pictures of these things, let alone that the pictures existed, let alone that the guns existed. Anyway, we'll keep going. We live in pretty interesting times right now, pretty good times. Let's see. Everybody subbing to each other, right on. Most of the anti-2A comes from the DC suburbs, Richmonds and Hamptons. They don't reflect how the rest of the state feels. I remember driving through Virginia in 2001. I was coming up there right before 9/11, and maybe in August or July. And I was surprised at how big Virginia's cities were, because, most of the West Coast or East Coast, once you get off the coast a little bit, it's sort of rural, but Virginia seemed pretty big. So, I mean, I get the idea, or I got the idea of why they kind of have a big city mentality, or at least parts of it. Then we get into the radio shows. So RapidFire is Cape Gun Works radio show. Cape Gun Works is a gun shop in Massachusetts. A big fan of theirs. They do 3 different shows each week. RapidFire on this radio show is an actual radio show still, where they go to the radio station and record an hour of show broadcasting out their actual radio waves. But they'll turn on a phone and simulcast that to the YouTubes as well. That's what this is. Then on Tuesday, they do the 2A Tuesday on the Grace Curley show, and that's worth listening to. You hear a random selection of callers call in for about 45 minutes, and then Toby usually chats a little bit before and then a bit after that 45-minute chunk. Then on Wednesdays, they go live again, and they go live from the store for 2 hours, usually an hour of conversation and chatting with the guests, or chatting with the people in the comments, and then typically have a guest on for the second hour. Another consistent and community building focus on guns and the Second Amendment. And because Massachusetts is getting wailed on, they have a pretty big focus on what's happening in Massachusetts right now. Then going to the other side of the country, from Massachusetts all the way over to San Diego, another radio show that's worth listening to is the Gun Owners Radio. I can't remember if I might have listened to that one this week, because it's on late enough in the afternoon that I can, they're actually on the West Coast, so they know what's up. Everybody on the East Coast doesn't give a shit, so they put their stuff on for them, and it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon for us out here. What are we supposed to do? Stop everything and stop doing things at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? I can't do that. So Gun Owners Radio doesn't start until 4 or 5 here. So it, some of the other stuff is on at noon or 3 in the afternoon. So it's tougher to be there for all of it. But I think I did listen to Gun Owners Radio this week, and they've been changing their format up a little bit and leaving themselves on live during the commercials for the radio show. And that's a lot of fun, because just like Rapid Fire Radio, they're interacting with the audience and stuff. Michigan is out there. Welcome. How many states do we got out there? Did Black Rifle, you want to say what state you're in? Ron Wayne, I should know what state you're in, but I'm drawing a blank right now. Is it Missouri? Missouri? Woods is in the PNW. Do I know where Garage Guy is? And I don't think I know where anybody is tonight. I know where Gunpowder. Well, I think I used to know. I don't even know where Gunpowder Beauty is right now. So yeah, look at that. And then G23 moved too. So I don't know where anybody is right now. Yeah, I don't know where anybody is. I was gonna say I know where Mr. Knives is, but he's not in here tonight. So Virginia, you just said that. Okay, duh. Yeah, I'm tired. So we got people all over the country. What do I have? Oh, did I even answer that question all the way? I would guess they answered a Gunpowder's question, typical response time. It should be reasonable unless it's like, the middle of an election season. I would think it should be reasonable because they all have staff. So if you've been waiting on a letter or something, I don't think you should wait forever. I don't know if anybody has an appropriate time, like if there's a polite amount of time to wait. I would say if it was something important, if you're like asking your representative, like, hey, my kid needs help, like I'd be on the phone, like I'd be bugging them every 5 minutes. But if it's just something where you kind of like, hey, I'd like the respect of an answer here, and I don't want to just be, I wasn't just offering advice, I wanted a reply. I'd say 2 weeks. Is that unrealistic? Like I say, they got staff. I don't expect the congressperson to read everything within 2 weeks, but their staff, you'd think they'd have enough people. But I don't know. Is he in Oregon? I thought he moved, or he was just talking about moving. I thought he said he moved off the coast, though. I think he might be in a different state, dude. Anyway, so the radio shows, what am I missing over there? There used to be more radio shows, but they're actually, I think that's all we got. So then we get into gun calendars. We'll take a quick look over there. But first, I got a yawn. I almost woke the puppy up with that yawn. We'll go take a look at gun calendars here in a second, but let's take a second and talk about, we live in the era of Dragon Man.
Man here, and we're pretty excited. A couple more weeks, we open up the museum April 14th on a Sunday at 10 o'clock. It'll be open for the whole season. And let me just take you around and show you a few things you're going to see. This is my nurse's display. I have every nurse's uniform, 1939 to 45. Okay, you follow me? We're going down this way.
Everyone.
I got my mom and dad's memorial over here. They went in during World War II. My dad's flight jacket here. Okay, everything.
That's new. He moved them next to each other. They used to be separate.
Every boot and every shoe they wore, all the bayonets, weapons that came.
He just casually says every boot they wore in World War II. That's a 4-year battle across the entire planet. And Dragon Man has an example of a pair in good condition of every boot and every shoe. And then every bayonet.
Back from the war, stuff from the 10th Mountain Division.
Now you're like, what, am I walking in his living room? No, this is the museum tour. Hundreds of people are going to walk through, and everything's on pegboard. Everything's in these display cases. And everybody has such reverence and respect for his shit that they leave it where it's at. Everything is live. Everything is a real gun. Everything is either NFA or legit. And when you get into certain rooms, everything is like 1943. Everything is like 1945. You live in an era of Dragon Man. If you don't go to Dragon Man's and experience it, you had the opportunity. You're a capitalist. Dragon Man's is there.
All the cigarettes they smoked, all the personal stuff, the first aid kits.
His collection is insane. It is better than any museum, period, because it's real. It's right there. And it's just Dragon Man collecting this stuff and sharing his collection with everybody.
And this is one of my 6 machine gun bunkers. Everything behind these sandbags is fully operational. These are real bullets and real machine guns. That's what makes my museum special. No matter where you go in the United States, you're not going to see a better setup than what I set up here.
And you're just walking through it.
We have a total of over 1,500 uniform mannequins.
This is the mannequin room.
Weapons, 5,000 helmets, and It took about 35 years to get all this together, and I spent over $10 million. This is my privately owned military museum. Okay, check out all these mannequins. We got M1 Grant.
So it's going to take you through for 13 minutes. The tour is 2 hours. Every year, Dragon Man takes the money he makes and puts it back into his museum. He grows it all the time. We live in the time of Dragon Man. If you are not going to Dragon Man, that's a decision you're making to not go into Colorado Springs to visit Dragon Man. April 14th through Memorial Day or whatever it is, November. And the whole summer, you've got to go check out, you have available to you to go check out Dragon Man's in Colorado Springs. Depending on how you get there, there's all kinds of cool stuff to do in the country on the way there. But we live in a time of Dragon Man's. There's going to be a time when people go, think of J.M. Davis. Like, oh, look at this crazy museum. Look how awesome this museum is. Can you imagine staying at that hotel? Can you imagine having a conversation with J.M. Davis? We got a J.M. Davis living right now, except he's Dragon Man. And instead of being just interested in guns, period, he's interested in World War II guns and shooting them and keeping them in working order. Also, I can't even imagine 42-something hot rods. So he's way into Elvis and hot rods and that whole thing. So he's got a ton of hot rods you walk around into in the museum. All right, so that was one thing that's coming up this month. Another thing is the Gun Owners of America.
Hey everyone, Eric Pratt here with Gun Owners of America, and I'm excited to finally announce the first GOA convention goals. The Gun Ownership Advocacy and Leadership Summit will be August 17th through 18th in Knoxville, Tennessee at the Knoxville Convention Center. This first of its kind event is a celebration of you, our members, as you'll be able to strengthen your bond with the companies you love. There will be acres of booths filled with new products. Meet your favorite content creators, listen in on panels, and join Q&A sessions discussing the fight for your rights. Goals is about joining together as a community and fighting for the Second Amendment. And of course, it's free for GOA members. So more details are to come. We're looking forward to seeing you there.
Good words. We'll see what happens. And then, what did I jump to that page? I guess I did. Good words. We'll see what happens. And then, I hit the wrong button. Okay, that's why I jump.
Hey everyone, Eric.
No, I did do that. Dang it. All right. So I guess I have to go back to the video from over here. I'm getting tired. I don't even know what buttons to click on a browser anymore. All right. And then I guess I have to go back to pause this somehow and then go down. Here we go. Here we go. Now we're back in cooking with gas. All right. So that's happening. Then we'll go over to gun calendars. So one of the things I mentioned, our Patreons help us keep things online. One of those things is gun calendars. No ads, just some links over to GOA and JPFO and AZCDL and SAF and ETM. But aside from the links to those organizations, they don't pay us. For damn sure they don't pay us. They ain't paying us. I talk shit about them all the time. So they're not paying us. Our Patreon support everything we're doing here. The servers that the stuff runs on, the time it takes to keep the stuff up and running, the time it takes to edit the stuff and keep it up to date. But yeah, really appreciate that. Let's take a look at, I don't have a full calendar for April here. It's got some stuff in here. Today it's the 12th, and here in Tucson we have a range outside of town called 3 Points, and it was officially dedicated back in 1969 on this date. So that's a little bit micro focus there, but oh well. I wrote the calendar and we're in Tucson, so I put that little bit of Tucson history in there. But let's use that as an indication that there's a lot of ranges out there, and every one of them has an origin story. We don't just, we're not just owed ranges. We can't just take them for granted, just like gun shows. If we ignore them, they go away. There's people out there actively hunting them, right? They do not want them to exist, either because they facilitate our hobbies and our interests, or they have some delusion that they're dangerous. So while I'm saying 3 points, which is just 3 roads that hit each other, little tiny towns like gas station and a couple of other stores. While 3 points is probably not something anyone's ever going to care about outside of Tucson, everybody's got a range like this. So if you're looking for something to do as far as content, hey, what do I have? What is my voice out here? You've got your location is one of them, and the locations that you visit. For a long time when we do the tour, our goal is to get out there and see gun shops and gun shows. And as I was driving, if I passed a range, I'd stop. There's a couple of ranges in Roswell that I didn't know about. I just drove past. I seen a sign. I was like, hell, I got time. I stopped and checked out the range. There's a pretty cool range just outside of Cody, Wyoming. Didn't know about it. Just drove by and saw the sign and said, oh, I'm going to stop by and take a look at it. It's all decked out for competitions and stuff. So shooting ranges are part of our thing, part of the normalization. They certainly get bullied, oh, they make too much noise, or I think they're dangerous, or whatever. But anyway, so think of this as a cue. If you don't know about 3 points, think of it as a cue to maybe consider checking out the origin story of your local range or ranges and make a social post about it. Doesn't cost nothing. It's a little black and white picture. It's a little postcard that we're putting down electronically for the next generations to remember something. Most ranges aren't dead. Now that they got social, they might be having a Facebook page or something, or a YouTube or a Instagram or something. But aside from that, most of them don't have the like the self-realization. The groups, the people that put them together are committees, and those committees don't think, hey, we should write down our origin story and make sure that's documented. Think about how many ranges out there don't have an About Us page. They're all about our hours and our rules, maybe a waiver, just the bare necessities to what they needed to get done. They don't take the time to talk about where they come from and the growth and the adversities. All right, I'll quit harping on it. Clash Bash, Texas is happening this weekend. It's one of the multiple, they're almost comic cons, they're like Kalashnikov cons. They're a bunch of people dress up in different ways and have a lot of fun. There's competitions. There's trade and like swap meet, I think. There's like gun show type of an environment. There's camping, and that means there's camaraderie during the evenings. And that's how I know that's how that has grown into a community event. What started as hey, let's have some fun in Texas, turned into let's have some fun in Texas every year, turned into let's have fun in a different way than other people are in the gun community. And of course, we'll be focused on Kalashnikovs, and it's taken on a real life of its own. So if you've been following that one, or if you're interested in something, you can go again. Now you can go back and look at 8 years worth of its development and how it's grown and how the people involved have developed and stuff. It's really interesting. 15th is tax day. So I guess I'll be doing taxes the rest of the weekend. Next Tuesday, I'm trying to figure out how to do the calendar so that the people who are listening to this as a podcast aren't listening to like history. They're not listening to like 2 weeks old. So I'm kind of taking a look at the next week and then a little bit more. So next Tuesday is the anniversary of Annie Oakley setting a clay target record in 1922. I mean, that's just one of a million records she's probably created or broke. I got to take some water here. Hold on. Usually an hour is where my voice and mouth give up. I'll get totally dried out and it's hard to talk. It's also an anniversary of Annie Oakley shooting 100 clay targets in a row. It's also the anniversary of Arizona constitutional carry. So next Tuesday, April 16th, 2010 is when our governor, Jan Brewer, signed into law a bill making Arizona the third state to allow people to carry a concealed carry arm without any kind of permit or whatever. So our constitutional carry became active July 30th of that year. And people said there's going to be blood in the streets. The only people that had constitutional carry prior to Arizona were Vermont, which never had any prohibitions against it and never instituted any prohibitions against it. Therefore, they never prohibited it. It was always a thing in Vermont. Alaska, in some time earlier than us, said, we're going to do constitutional carry. But because they were the first state to actually do it, it was, I don't know, kind of, people were hesitant about it. They didn't understand it for sure. It was certainly not in anybody's vernacular. Concealed carry was barely in people's vernacular in these days, 2000 and, pre-2010. Constitutional carry, which is the name for it, anybody that says permitless carry is bullshit. It's constitutional carry. Arizona, when they became the third state, when we became the third state with constitutional carry in 2010, that's what started the constitutional carry wave, or whatever you want to call it. That has now got to 29 states. In the meantime, we got to 50 states with concealed carry, concealed carry, which a lot of people said would never happen because Hawaii and Illinois and some states would never get concealed carry. Before the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, decade before all that, every state got to concealed carry. And that wasn't done with threats, and it wasn't done with manipulation. It was done through education and awareness and changing the minds of those people in the middle who've been duped by the liars on the other side. So it has been done. We don't have a memory because our organizations at a national level that have existed through all this either weren't paying attention or don't give a shit about keeping our memory about all this alive. It's one of the reasons we do the calendar. So Arizona constitutional carry, the anniversary of it on the 16th, it's critical. It's crucial. It's one of the biggest things that I wanted to, it's one of the main things that when I put this effort together, the calendar and putting all this stuff together so that it's available, is so that we don't forget stuff like this. That is just like Florida in 1986 doing concealed carry, which eventually led to Illinois in 2015, took from 1986 to 2015 to get every state to constitutional carry. It's taken from 2010 to 2024, 14 years, to get 29 states to constitutional carry. So there's a lot of doom and gloomers. There's a lot of sky is falling. There's a lot of let's exploit the situation every fucking time it comes up, every time it comes around in the cycle, because we've been around long enough to know this is a cycle. There's enough of those exploiters out there that will never pay attention to the positive ground we've been making. And unfortunately, that means there's a bunch of people that are new to the game that just don't realize how far we've come from where we were. So Arizona constitutional carry, one step, a major step in a massive movement. I'll shut up and keep moving. Let's see. Illinois iGold is coming up on Thursday. So I don't know if Ozzy's out there or not, but Illinois, let's see, it's Illinois Gun Owners Lobby Day. Every year they get together. I don't know how many years this has been now. The gun owners in Illinois get themselves to Springfield, which is essentially in the center of Illinois. So it's a long, skinny state that looks like an arrowhead. Right in the center of it is the capital, and everybody has to drive for, 2-3 hours, 4 hours maybe to get to it. So Illinois gun owners, just like Virginia, do a really good job of organizing themselves and moving themselves, I guess, or mobilizing themselves to get to this lobby day. And they get there and they make their voices known. People from all over, and something that the legislators know is going to happen, and the representatives know is going to happen, and they make accommodations for it. Why doesn't every state have one of these? Why doesn't every state have one of these? Why doesn't every state have one of these? I don't like to play that three bullshit thing, but you know what I'm saying? Why doesn't every state have one of these? If we had one in every state, that would be 50 days of the year that people would have to understand that gun owners exist. Right now, it's one, and most people aren't going to pay attention to it. Let's see, 19th, the 51-day Sage in Waco is going to end in flames in 1993. If you weren't alive for that, it was an interesting experience. Can you imagine with the internet what it would have been like to experience that? Back then, you had a distance, a lag, an offset of time. So something would happen. It would be, documented, I guess. People would have to get those pictures, and that may or may not have been easy to do or quick. And then once they had the pictures, they had to put out a message. And then those messages had to get out there. So there was no immediacy, very little immediacy. Immediacy took a while compared to today. So it'd be interesting to think about what that situation would have been like today because of with all the bullshit, instant communication, instant concern, instant hype, instant exploitation of situations like that one. Would have been very interesting. We saw something similar happen with, what was the name of that ranch? With the ranch in Nevada. It wasn't the Bundy Ranch, was it? There was a ranch in Nevada in like 2015. Yeah, I guess it was then. It was in 2014. So that was an armed standoff that a bunch of people probably would have freaked out about today, but they all sat on their fucking asses in 2014 and just watched everybody show up. Jaeger was there. Haas was there. So I know people that were there. I couldn't afford to get there, but I was planning, and I would have probably wanted to go. It's easy to say, but I definitely know everybody else who sits around bullshitting today sat on their fucking ass while that happened. And that was essentially, potentially every bit as crazy as Waco was at the time Waco happened in 93. So again, people that want to doom and gloom sat on their asses when actual shit happened, and people that showed up with fucking rifles and said no more Wacos stopped Wacos from happening in this country. It's controversial, but it's 1:00 in the fucking morning, so who's going to challenge me on it? Nobody. We'll keep going. I'm missing a bunch of stuff, I'm sure, but later on this month, a Girl and a Gun National Conference is coming up. That's hundreds, if not 1,000 ladies now who represent gun clubs and ranges and groups of ladies all across the country. And this may be one or two ladies from each of those groups coming together to get up-trained and get skill building in Colorado. And it's slowly, quietly growing to pretty much the biggest training event in the country that's of value. There's a lot of like, oh, you should hold the gun this way, or you should give a shit about this, or this is the most important tactic, or this is the most important thing to worry about. What the Girl and a Gun National Conference is doing is offering a bunch of ladies who may or may not have had a lifetime of experience with firearms, giving them a consistent experience, or I guess experience with checking out different things, bringing in various instructors and various skill sets, including activism. So activism is part of the menu, and the people that run this are activists, and they're not just bullshit activists. They're like actual active activists. So this is one of the most important things that happens. This isn't a bunch of influencers and bullshit people who are getting paid to drag cameras around to sell shit. This is people that are getting fucking work done. They're ladies, and they're doing it. They're fucking doing it just like a mom or a grandma would do it. They're just doing it, and they're not asking for everybody to give a shit about it. And they're not asking for the limelight, and they're not asking for $1. They're doing this on their own time and with their own money. And what they're doing is they're going home to their families. They're going home to their gun clubs, their gun ranges, their gun shops, right? They're going home to their churches, their schools, their work, right? They're going home to the doctor's offices, and they're going home to all the things that people do, ladies do whenever they go home to do their things, with all this new knowledge and awareness and understanding that there's 1,000 other ladies that have that same experience. It's foundation. It's no. It's a seed change. We're going to see something come out of that people have no concept of. Eventually, we'll get past the bullshit. I was told to buy a revolver messages. That's as bad as the grip angle conversations. Those will end, and we'll just have regular conversations where everybody doesn't have to worry about anyway, we'll keep moving. Creedmoor's first shooting range was in Creedmoor, New Jersey, or was that New York? I think that was New York. The next one was in New Jersey. So the NRA's first range, after they created the NRA in the 1870s, they said, let's do something somewhere. And they said, okay, you can have a chunk of New York. And I think is it Long Island or is it someplace now? But pretty soon they outgrew it, and the land was expensive and other people wanted it. So what do you know? The first NRA range was eventually crowded out. A bunch of rich people said, it's too noisy or whatever. And then they moved it to New Jersey for a long time. And then again, got too expensive. People didn't want it there. Now they're in Ohio. So that was Creedmoor, and now they're in, well, I don't know. But anyway, now they're in Ohio. We have a ban on guns near schools overturned in 1995. I keep that one in the calendar because we often, again, get told by the people who want to exploit the situation or to keep the situation going so that they don't end it, so that they can still bitch about the same old shit that they're used to. Those people would suggest that we never won shit, except in 1995, we had a win. And in 1995, we didn't have an internet. And in 1995, we didn't have shit. We didn't have talk radio. We didn't have nothing. We had gun shows, gun shops, and people that knew they didn't want to get stepped on by a state. You know what I mean? Like a big state government bullshit communism. So that was something that's, I don't know enough about it, but I like to put stuff in the calendar to let people know we have not always we have not always lost. We have not always been beat on by the other side. It's a back and forth. We get black eyes, they get black eyes. Once we get used to getting black eyes, we can just win fights and be done with this. All right, then we got Florida force on force law in 2005. Bush signed legislation giving people the right to meet force with force. And I don't know why I put that in there. Maybe it was 2005. It doesn't seem like it was new or nothing. I don't know what that one's about. I really don't even remember putting that one in there. So maybe it was instigated by a conversation I can't remember or something like that. All right, so another event that's happening probably near when this podcast will air is the 4th annual Gun Makers Match, and that's in Pennsylvania, and that'll happen on the 27th of this year. And that is a competition, a shooting competition, but really more than shooting. It's like a shooting and design competition for people that create their own firearms. And they'll do that from kits, or they'll do that from scratch, or they'll do that in any number of ways. And then they get together and they share, and they take a look at each other's stuff. They have people judge it, and then they win, or they have competitions in different ways. With that, though, I'll wrap it up because I think that's enough, and I'm missing a bunch of stuff. This is just some of the highlights from April of this year, but I keep saying it, but after taxes, it'll be a lot easier. Right now, taxes are killing me, and then I have a couple other things that are bugging me, but the taxes are like the drain. I have to do them, and it's obviously getting closer to the deadline here. But once taxes are off the table, then things can get pushed around a little bit easier, and I should be able to get back to the calendar. It bugs me that I have a couple of months now that it's kind of in a new format. There's a couple of months that are weak, but as you see, there's a couple of months, most of the months are good to go. Like I've already filled them in, and they don't need any more work because they're self-perpetuating or whatever. But it's just me. So again, thanks to the Patreons for giving me the time and the ability to keep these things up over the years. But there are a couple of months here that get kind of weak, and that's because last year or whatever, I didn't have time to go do it, and this year I haven't done it either. So you have a couple of things here that will get eventually filled in, and then this will be a close to complete project and a supplement to the Minuteman University project, and hopefully a useful resource. You can also click up here on Firearms events and get a quick summary of everything I know of that's worth a shit that's happening this year, minus some of the hunting stuff, which I just haven't had time to research. Other years I've had time to put all the hunting stuff in here also, but aside from the hunting, we have some of the major gun shows in here, the get-togethers, the events, the shoots, and most importantly, the Second Amendment events, and then I guess the industry events as well, and the rallies. Our last rally is iGold, unfortunately. This year we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. iGold will be our 7th rally. In 2020, there was 20 rallies scheduled. We barely had 6 of them or something, and then everybody gave up and shut everything off. So someday rallies will be a thing again. All right, well, that's gun calendars. And again, thanks to our Patreons for giving us the time and the money to keep the servers going, the software going, and the time it takes to just keep all that stuff happening. Gun calendars is just one. We're gun websites because we have a bunch of channels. You can go look at the main site. It'll give you a map to them all, but they're all in various ranges of being useful or interesting or current. But we don't have a crew over here. Our goal isn't to sell you stuff on the websites or to create link funnels or any bullshit. We're not collecting email addresses. We're trying to keep information available because we know the internet is copied once or twice a day. By having that information available, it helps feed Wikipedia. It helps people like this that we're promoting, and it's just a useful resource out there. So we thank our Patreons for making it possible for us to make that possible. All right, with that being said, we're going to get to the military interviews, and again, more of them this week than I listened to more of them. I listened to all of them. I didn't put them all in here yet. Last Friday, the team house had chief of disguise for the CIA. How is that? She was a really interesting lady. She went into CIA because her boyfriend or husband was in the CIA. I think it was her husband was in the CIA. I think she ended up getting divorced and then ended up marrying another guy in the CIA and had a long career. She went from being married and being the wife of a CIA person, which is kind of a job in the CIA, to then being the head of disguise. Can you imagine being so disguise is like a portion of Q, whatever you'd call Q in James Bond, that part of the CIA, the part that does the gadgets and the cameras and all that, disguise is one of the branches there. So she was like a very high up in the CIA, but she'll explain in that interview that they didn't just learn disguise and that's your job. Like they learned everything and then they were just in charge of disguise or cameras or this or that. So they were sort of more than jacks of all trades. They all had some really interesting in-depth tradecraft, and then went out and used it in different ways, but then also were responsible for these other layers of CIA. Anyway, really interesting conversation. Then on Mic Drop, he had part 2 of his conversation with the pararescue guy who was in charge of rescuing astronauts. If we ever had an issue with an astronaut that needed to be rescued, the pararescue people that were tasked with that had massive jobs because of the distance that a spacecraft flies quickly. They had to be kind of stationed all around the entire planet, like in a big circle around the whole planet. And one of the guys who did that as an occupation when he retired or transitioned out of the military, I don't think he's actually retired yet, has created a public version of that, a free market, what do you call it? Just a non-military, a free market version of that concept for all these new private space companies that are going into space. So it's an interesting conversation listening to a guy who's had, pararescue, if you don't know, or the Air Force Special Operations. They do a little bit of everything, literally, and then they're paramedics. So they can fight and do everything you've ever seen any special operation person do, because they go train with all of them just to know what they're doing, not become experts. They let the experts be experts, but pararescue understands and does everything so that they can fight to get you, keep you alive, and then fight to get you back out. They do some of the toughest work in the whole military, and they're tasked with it, and they do it. So they're kind of like the Coast Guard, except the Coast Guard gets shit for some reason. Pararescue gets respect, but both are doing some of the most dangerous shit ever just to rescue people. I guess the Coast Guard doesn't have to kill the ocean in order to get to you. They just have to keep you alive. Pararescue will kill people to get to you and then kill people to get you back out. Like, they're not fucking around. So it's an interesting conversation. And that being said, they never have to do that. They're able to do it, but rarely do they send our pararescue people to do anything like that. But it actually has a couple of conversations where they do talk about how they were deployed. Anyway, super interesting conversations. There was a couple of other ones this week, and if I wasn't tired and just talking out of reflex at this point, I would be able to get my head together and remember them. They're almost always good. Every once in a while, there's like a dud. Actually, the guy today was an SAS guy. I usually don't care so much about the foreign stories, but they're sometimes interesting. They fill in some blanks and stuff about world history, but I usually enjoy the U.S. Conversations more than the foreign stuff. And then last, Me and Tony got together last week to do Ask Gun questions, and I don't know if we'll be able to do it this week. I think I can do it this week. What did I do last week? I did do something all day last week. I think I only have to do something in the morning this week. So we could probably get one off tomorrow, but that's all I was able to do this last week. I keep trying to do some other shows, and it's just been kicking my ass this week. But I don't want everybody to get discouraged. It was kicking my ass and the other side, or whatever the other side. You know, I was getting as much good as much bad this week, but definitely too much of both. No. Too much of the bad, not enough of the good, but so much of both that I'm still spinning, and it's not over. So I appreciate everybody for being patient with me today, because it's been a reckless one. We're done. We'll wake the puppy up. He'll make a potty, and we'll be asleep before you're probably asleep. Unless you're rolling over and going to bed, I'm going to be asleep pretty quick here. So thanks everybody for staying up, and I'll go through and see what's everybody saying. Infringed is in the dictionary. What does that mean? Have a good night. Oh, everybody's just saying good night to everybody. Yep, thanks everybody who stuck around. We get more and more people join in during the show. Not that many people say stuff. So again, I'll encourage you to be part of the show. The internet is back and forth. It's not a newspaper where you have to go find it and read it, and that's it. You have to assume what they're thinking about or know what their mindset is. It's not television where they literally come up with plans and plots to work our mammal brains against us, put the colors and the images up there so that they can help manipulate the programming. It's definitely not, radio where all you can do is listen to it and maybe call in. This is the internet. So you can type stuff immediately and be part of the show, or not. You don't have to. But I do appreciate the people that are, especially in the middle of the night, because these are people typically that are cool. We're the people that understand things are getting done in the middle of the night and not just sleeping. So, that's why we do our show in the middle of the night. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Me and Tony might be here tomorrow. Probably will be here tomorrow to do Ask Gun questions. And then check out Brooke at the Great Start Shooting School for her Suicide Prevention Saturday show. It'll happen in the afternoon or evening, I guess, depending on where you are. And then Hillbilly Up will have a show. And then She Fires has a show on Sunday. Otherwise, we'll see everybody next week. Hopefully everybody has a great weekend. And don't let them fool you with the sky's falling bullshit. We have to be paying attention, but we don't have to be gullible. This is an election year. Everybody wants us to forget the cycles that they're exploiting. We can end this shit through awareness and education. Have conversations with people. They see cars blow up in movies, and they know that cars don't blow up in real life. They see people jump out of airplanes and jump into another airplane. They know that shit doesn't happen in real life. They see guns in movies, and they think that happens in real life. Like it's our job is easy. We just have to tell people like that they're not, don't be delusional. Guns aren't magic, and gun owners are super safe. We always have been. If we weren't, we'd all be dead. Seriously, like who are we going to hurt ourselves if we were that reckless? And if these things were that dangerous, they're not. So it's just a matter of having conversations. We can all do that. We don't need anybody to lead us. We don't need to tell us to do it. We can just do it. And when we do, we usually win. And we've done it lots of times. I'm too tired to get us into the things, but yeah, it's not an overwhelming project. It's something we've done lots of times. We just have to do it again, and we'll have to do it again. And that'll be setting the example for the next generation to understand that they'll have to do it, and set the example for the next generation that'll probably have to do it. But that's what it's about. If it was easy, then we'd all be the Borg, and the answers would all be wrong if we were all agreeing on everything, right? I'm done. It's the night. Puppy saying goodnight. I don't think anybody's... No, there's still people out there, but I'm trying to find my mouses. Let's see. I can click this one. Wait, no, getting rid of this one. There we go. We'll throw a commercial up here again, and we'll be out of here.
Captain, a vessel approaching.
On screen.
We're being hailed.
Every weekend over at gearwebsites.com, our online store, we have free Patch Friday. And that means that every order placed on our store on Fridays is going to include at least one free patch. So that's every order with no coupons, no minimum order, no codes needed. You place the order on Friday, and when it arrives to you, it's going to have at least one free patch. Your support means a lot to us, and financial support is critical. So thanks again to the people who keep us online through purchases at gearwebsites.com. All right, there's the link to the store. There's the link to the Podbean for the podcast. And there's the link for the puppy.